Wow,
Thanks, team.
That's a real game changer, that.
It sure is.
Oh, that's your name of your church, isn't it?
Game Changer
Wow.
Church, exactly.
Wow, isn't that just appropriate? It just flowed through me. So welcome, Game Changers Church people. Glad you're here. Great crew of people. Yesterday, Pastor Phil or Christine were talking about Kerry, who went into the high schools. Do you know, we used to work in the same buildings, and I don't know if I ever spoke to you.
I thought you were just ignoring me, and so I'm still getting counselling over that, but it's okay.
I have been called stony-faced, but Kerry did a remarkable job, and him and Rhian are doing a superb job. So, my friends, you've arrived in Frisco after a series of amazing events.
Yeah, incredible. 25 years ago, we did a missions trip to the Dallas region, and God dropped something in our heart, and little do we realize that, the first year of our church will be the 25th anniversary of when God put something in our hearts.
Wow, 25 years.
25 years ago.
Wow.
But fast forward, we had a church on the Gold Coast. We could not get this region out of our hearts, and so we just knew we had to transition that. So we transitioned the church in the last month of transitioning it, and this is part of the incredible story. I was in a moment where I was just thinking about other, movements in Australia, and I thought about that pastor had been given a building, that pastor had been given 3 buildings, and I was like, God, it's nice to be part of a movement that's been around a long time. They've been given buildings, and the movement we're part of is young, and I don't need their story, but I'm believing for my story. Yeah. And I'd heard around that time a statement that Hebrews teach their kids, that whenever you see or hear of someone being blessed, it means I'm next. And so our mindsets can say, God obviously loves them more than they love me, or that would never happen to me. But I just chose to say, I'm next. I don't know how that's going to happen. And so I just leant into that.
Very good, man.
We transitioned the church. We moved back to New Zealand just for a couple of months to see family before coming in this direction. By the way, the visas hadn't unlocked at that point. We didn't know how that was going to happen. And what happened was I got a phone call from a pastor in Frisco. Frisco is where we're headed. It was in our hearts. And he rings me up and he says, hey, I'm from a church called C3 Frisco. Now, they had nothing to do with our movement. Cornerstone Community Church is what it is. He said, hey, look, I'm moving on from this place. Do you want this building? They had 2 properties. And it was just like out of the blue, had no relationship with it at all. And what happened was I then sent in Pastor Steve Parrish. Give us a wave over there.
Yeah, Stephen Rowena.
Stephen Rowena Parrish.
Huge.
And I'm here to salute these guys,
Absolutely.
honor these guys.
Absolutely.
Because, Pastor Steve stepped in there and navigated. It was a situation where, financials were going backwards, a very tiny group of people, 20-odd, 25 people, and it was really bad. But anyhow, the good news is this, is that we acquired that space and we landed here in November that year. So it was, we've been here a year and 2 months now.
Wow.
So, incredible story, because the week we landed here, the 2 properties that we had, we sold, and we were able to clear the debt the church have money in the bank for us to launch strongly. That's awesome. Which is incredible.
Absolutely. So Rhian, tell us, you've launched, it looks to me like a very healthy launch.
It's been a pretty phenomenal story, but obviously not without its hiccups along the way.
Oh, no.
We had planned to launch in September, when a lot of other churches were launching, but obviously we had to pivot when we all got COVID. So when we got COVID, Kerry got pretty sick and he actually ended up in hospital, so we had to make the decision to push out our launch, which is not ideal.
No.
But God always knows. And as we heard yesterday, when you have to wait, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And in hindsight, we launched at the right time. And God has brought the most incredible people into our church family.
Yes.
So it's just been amazing. So the pandemic, yes, it's been tough, but for us, it's actually been a great season.
So are you actually back in physical services?
Yes, we are.
Yes. We started 16 weeks ago, every Sunday, so great.
So we're in a middle school. It's been incredible just how God has unlocked all these things and, brought the most amazing team for us to be able to launch the way we've launched. In the same month that we launched, there were 4 or 5 churches launching in that same space. It was incredible what was going on, but God has been incredible. And I just say this, is that so often you can be in moments of great anxiety in that waiting period. And we just had to rest. There were moments we were trapped in Australia, then we were trapped in New Zealand, and we were just waiting. But now, looking back, we know that God has got us here for such a time as this.
That's awesome.
And we're excited about what God's going to do right there.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Pastor Phil has mentioned his amazing sister and her husband have a church in Frisco, and they have been toiling the soil for years. And now we've just sort of come in. They've plowed this amazing ground. And spiritually, we're just coming in and we're reaping what they've been sowing. And we're so grateful.
Thank
and we
you.
honour you guys today
Thank you.
for
Well
what
done,
you've
girl.
gone before us to do. Thank you.
It's very, very kind. It's very nice. Beautiful. Can I ask you the awful question? How many people are gathering with you on Sunday?
We would, look, I mean, last Sunday we had 96 people. We've got about 160 odd that we're working with right now.
Yep.
We're just getting so many people just returning to church. It's early days, but we're incredibly excited about what's going on. We have what I'm excited about is that whole the discipling of our people. The amount of people, we had 40 plus people showing up every week just to serve and love on people from as early as 6 a.m. through to 1 p.m. It's amazing what's going on. So I honor my team. We love you. We
absolutely.
appreciate you.
Beautiful.
Incredible days.
That's wonderful. Well, I guess that's about it. Go out into the fray, kids. Beautiful. Now we're welcoming Eli and Kelly Nelson. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Where my city people at?
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Now, let me just give a little bit of background here. Eli and Kelly are the most beautiful people. We were really fortunate that there was very bad weather in Atlanta about 2 weeks ago, and Jeff had Pastor Phil on a Friday night meeting, but typical of Georgians, they just closed down the smell of snow. And so Jeff succumbed very, very poorly, I might add, to the pressure. And no, he didn't. It's just they had to shut the... And so Pastor Phil's sitting there going, what am I going to do? Because he's a man of action. What am I going to do? Get me out of here. So he rang me and said, what do I do? I said, I'm glad. This is the first time you've ever asked me this in your entire life. This is an awesome opportunity. So I said a whole lot of stuff, but that he completely disregarded. I said, I reckon it'd be awesome if you could go to Omaha. So I rang Eli. And what I love about people like Eli and Kelly is it wouldn't matter what they had going on. It's going to not happen. Come on up, boss.
Hey, come on.
And you had a great weekend, didn't you?
Do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do it now. So these a wonderful couple, they took over in a very difficult circumstance where the previous minister was essentially stepped down. And we won't go into details because some of you know them and the rest of you, the older you get, the less you want to know, quite frankly. So very, very quite traumatic for the church. A good church, really good church. They went through a bit of a battering. However, this couple were recently, the board or the elders agreed that they would go from an interim role of leadership to the role as senior leaders. And I'm sure there were other great people. I tell you what, if you don't love this couple after 10 minutes, there's something profoundly wrong with you. And you need a doctor. So just walk through the journey a little bit, both of you. Tell us from your perspective, how have you navigated? It's not just a COVID story, but how have you navigated? And what do you feel free to say in this environment?
Yeah, I would first start it off with saying that God takes everyone through seasons. And if we're talking about, like, we always want to get back what we lost. And so I look at it most like if we're talking about recovery, we're trying to get back something that we feel like we once had. And if you skip the recovery, you don't have the strength that you'll need for the next season. So if you're looking at it from the standpoint of weightlifting, which is my vernacular, I would love to, that's how just my brain thinks.
Guns.
That there is a recovery period.
Yeah.
And your body actually learns things in that recovery period that gives it strength to be able to lift more weight later on. And I would look at it in our lives that when things come against you, that God is trying to form you into a certain type of person. God is building you. Let's say, God is building me. God is building me. God is building each and every single person to be a type of person that can walk in everything that he has for you. And it's in the valleys that you get the water, that you get the fruit that will sustain you on the mountaintop. And what I've learned about during this season is that a lot of leaders talk a lot about Nehemiah and rebuilding the wall. And I found that there's a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations.
Yeah, people don't read it.
There's a time to rejoice and a time to weep.
Yeah.
There's a time to work and there's a time to rest. And I found that in this time of resting, that God is strengthening. And when we could look at it as we just want to get right back to it, and we have a full gun-ho team, and we want to be able to reach the city of Omaha and even beyond that. But I think God right now is saying, hey, just kind of rest. And what I found is in that resting that you'll get a word. You'll get a word, you'll get a vision that'll actually sustain you and carry you through to the next season that God has for you.
And it's not been an easy season, has it? For you and your people. It's been very unsettling. Kelly.
So just speaking to that a little bit, this idea of actual health and to the weightlifting, when you're lifting heavy weights, you're actually breaking your muscle, you're tearing your muscle. And so that's where that recovery kicks in. And so it's having this sense, first within yourself, to have healthy habits, healthy boundaries, leading as ministers in that way, and providing people a level of reason where people are going through the craziest things. You don't have to go through what we went through to need recovery. Yeah. And so no matter what it might be, it's just having a sense of reason where I love what Pastor Josh was talking about. Psychology is actually quite helpful. I'm not totally into it because it's not all great, but helping people actually with their emotions, with what is actually going on in their lives, is very beneficial, not just to that, but also to their spirituality, that it is intertwined with each other. God made us. He knows those things. And even going back to your analogy, weightlifters have spotters. And I just want to say how thankful we are to the spotters that we've had in our lives, you guys, that helped us lift some of those things. And even Pastor Phil, when he did join us, he talked about the relationships and how important they are, and that your life is essentially the sum total of your relationships. And so we didn't do it alone. We can never do it alone. And so having really healthy people in your life, maintaining health for yourself, and then sharing that with others, that's essentially the story.
No, absolutely. Do you raised a little point there that years ago there was a gentleman, some of you know quite well, Graham Fletcher. And Graham was put in charge of a church after a very serious moral failure. It was like a bad one. I don't know if any of them are actually good, but this was a bad one. I don't know the comparisons in that world, but this was a bad one. And one day he got up and said to the church, one of the best things I've ever heard, very wise, he said, he stood in front of the people. It was a big church at that stage, and he said, every emotion you have is valid. Yeah. Don't tamp it down, every emotion. So in your setting, you're letting the people have their emotions. Yeah. And maybe even have their little spats occasionally. But don't minimize a normal emotional response. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Can I say something to that real quick? So I don't know if I heard it from somebody in here, but emotions are like children. They can't drive the car of your life, and they also can't be shoved in the trunk. They actually have a place in your car, and so they actually have a seat in your car. So let's remember that.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Now these guys have got 4 children. It's cold in Nebraska. It's cold up there. That's wonderful. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I would say is that even in the midst of it, having a perspective that this too will pass. And that your life will be full of all ups and downs. If you felt like your life was always going to be on the mountaintop, hey, got news for you. It's not. And if you thought your life is always going to be in the valley, lift your head up.
That's right, beautiful.
And I feel like what
really
God is wanting to say is that for him to exceed your expectations means that it's not going to be what you thought it was going to look like. And when you do not know his methods, trust his character. So just
Beautiful. Well done. Thanks, guys. Beautiful. Very good.